Hello and welcome to the Ghostly Bear Games video blog. We record our day-to-day meetings as we work on our first game, In Search of a Home. These are unscripted, lightly edited segments from meetings that cover engineering, production, and design. Let us know any topics or questions you might have in our Discord. Thanks for watching.
Where do you want to start? We have like
Yeah,
an
we have
endless
too
amount
many
of things to
things.
talk about. So let's look at I'm gonna look at this
It's in
this
the.
backlog.
I know. And
Yeah,
what's the
let's go to
highest
the
priority
sprint
one?
board.
Let's just
The
go.
highest
Yep.
priority one is as a player. Nope, that's the visually engaging one. We need Carl for that for the design
that
timer.
one.
Ship captain specialties and personalities.
Is the next one after that?
We we
Ship
have a
cap-
little bit of a doc on that where we were like, we want to have captains at MVP. Captains should be able to give an ability,
Mm-hmm.
and they
Or
should
yeah.
or a passive.
Yep.
And we need to design out some content for that. Like, what kind of abilities can a captain give? What kind of passives can a captain give?
Yeah, we just need a
Okay,
content.
let's talk about that for a second then. Does somebody want to? It doesn't have to be you, Brandon, even though you're captain or you're the champion of the card. But you can do it if you want like a spreadsheet where we can go in and just start creating content, kind of like how we did with the factions for what's it called for Alter Tactics.
I think I'm just gonna make one big repository for each
I
of
thought to do it the same way.
of each of the sections in our game that we need to design
Well-
content for, because we're going to have that time boxed content creation session.
Yeah.
So you might as well put it all in the same spreadsheet.
Oh,
Yeah.
good call.
So I
Yeah.
will make that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should probably make it beforehand.
Yeah, I'm gonna start. I might as well set that up today as like just a thing
Yeah.
that I do.
Okay,
And
actually,
I would
the
challenge
next one is the same way.
ourselves on captain abilities and stuff to make them cool, not just like, oh, I bump a value or something. Like,
Yeah.
And faction aligned. 'cause
faction
I think-
aligned, and not. I feel like just changing like a passive or anything that just like, oh, now this ship produces some food, cool.
Yeah.
It's just kind of boring, and
Yeah.
I want the captains to be kind of cool.
We need them to have like a character and a personality to the ability.
Yeah. And I mean, we can come up with crazy stuff, and we're probably going to be like, oh, can't implement that crazy thing right now.
Just let it be broken for now.
Yeah.
Like, like who cares?
Well, it's mostly
Like,
a crazy thing of, can we actually implement? Like,
Hmm.
what's the time to? Oh, that ability will take like 3 days to implement. We should maybe not do that right now.
should have like an estimated time to implement.
Yeah, I feel like that's something. Once we start just jamming ideas down for engineers to go through and be like, okay, what is our estimate for actually implementing this? And we can prioritize from there.
Cool. Okay, so the next one, I want to start with the unique fleet. This actually falls under the exact same thing. I just added a new task to the beginning of this list that says create spreadsheet for content creation before our day-long content creation jam.
Yeah.
I feel like that's going to be the same thing because I think we have, correct me if you guys disagree, but I think we all feel pretty on board of what we're looking for when it comes to unique fleet stuff. You know, ships doing different things, having different installations, different amount of resources, etc. to start.
Which card is this? There's one thing that I've been thinking on this is even right now, you still. How much stuff can your flagship do? Because you do want a basic thing of you can scan planets, you can exploit planets.
Yeah.
So should the flagship
sure.
always have the ability have a scanners and a hangar on it? So you can always do that with your flagship.
Mm-hmm.
I go back and forth on that. Kind of what I'm thinking is we probably want to. What I was thinking is we probably just want to take the ships that you get and just say you have like just assigned to those ships have it be to where it just assigns a scanner and a hangar to each of your either that or just give them enough resources at the start to say, hey, build it. Pick where you want to build it.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
It takes some time, but we can just up the initial morale to make up for the time that you would spend building those kind of things.
I like that one because it
It does let the player customize better.
It does let the player, but it also lets the player screw themselves completely.
I don't think it does because they're gonna.
They could
I mean,
choose. They
well,
could
okay.
choose just to waste their resources on something else.
Watching Nate play, it took him a while to realize that he should build something initially.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Um,
building is actually not something super clear in our game yet. The buttons are also
yeah.
very small.
Except I feel like that's a UX concern instead of a game balance concern. It's like I'm
Oh,
torn
for
because I
sure.
want the
Yeah.
UX to be good, but at the same time, since it's not yet, I kind of feel like we should just struggle through those difficulties and teach people through the early access and still just make the game the way that we want it to be when we
Yeah.
finish.
Yeah, you're right.
Um,
I am all much more down for the idea that ships come with their their base ability, and we define whether or not that's an installation or a non-installation. So like freighter gas factory versus military aggressive exploitation, and then
mhm.
that will become a really interesting component of how many ships do I want to have with a base ability but an open installation slot so I can build hydroponics versus like a more quote unquote more powerful ability like the gas factory on a freighter that doesn't
Mhm.
come with an open slot, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe the interesting thing is that the flagship comes with like power 2 or something like that. So you'll naturally just build more on it
Yeah.
on the first go. But it is customizable so that it feels like it's
Yeah. That's true.
your ship. Something like that
And you customize it at the end of the.
before your first like after drafting before your first real jump,
Yeah.
you get like a build
Time.
opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get some build
Maybe that'd
time.
be a good time to do it. And you're just like, okay,
Yeah.
you've now seen all.
Retrofit your fleet.
It's now seen. You've seen what your fleet is. Now you have some resources. Figure out what you're gonna do with it.
Yeah.
And
And I
maybe.
mean, further down the line, when we start playing with resources and costs for drafting, that then becomes an interesting thing of like, oh, this ship comes with more metal. This ship comes with less metal, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it starts to be more things that we can play with for
Yeah.
replayability and drafting.
Yeah.
We could
Um,
also here's another really simple way that we could deal with that is at the end of the well, this isn't MVP. You know what? Screw it. Never
Yeah.
mind. I'm not even going to say it. We have tons of ideas. I don't need to say it because MVP needs to be MVP.
Yeah.
I think MVP could very well be just ships either do or don't come with installations. Some of them are critical, and you just get a bunch of resources
yeah,
Yeah.
to
more
build some
metal.
installations at the start.
Yeah, and we give them a little bit more time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like and just don't yes, there are going to be some players who screw it up and then they're like, "Oh, I have no idea what I'm doing." But it's like that's already the case and it will be the case for a while until we get any semblance of a UX that feels good.
Well, yeah, I will say that spending the 30 seconds to wait for all of those installations to build kind of feels really crappy
Mhm.
at the beginning. Like it'd be nice if we really just had them like just select your initial installations worth of metal across your fleet and then you start the game. But I know that's like an
That's a
extra
decent
like
chunk of UI, yeah.
yeah,
It's a decent
yeah,
chunk of UI and logic and I feel like MVP we should just be like, "Okay,
yeah.
it's a
Just
bit of
eat
player
the
pain."
pain. Yeah, yeah.
Or even just, what we could do in the meantime is just reduce the build installation to like 10 seconds. It's like,
Yeah.
does it really impact the game that much? How many installations are you building? Not that many. So it's like,
Really
yeah,
not
you
that
save
many
some
ever.
time. But
Like,
yeah,
how many
exactly.
installations do you build past your first hydroponics? I never built anything after that.
Right now,
Yeah,
not
that's a
not
problem.
really.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it is a
Well,
problem.
there's not a whole lot you can build.
You
Really.
can build
Yeah.
hydroponics, scanner, or what is a hanger. So like, yeah,
But
why would
but
you
we've
ever build
given
it?
you. But I don't want to put on other ships because other ships already have
Exactly.
things that they're doing, and I'm like, I don't want to mess with.
Yeah. We just don't have enough installations to care, you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah,
maybe we
for
should
sure.
just change the build time to like 10 seconds and
Seconds.
just call
Yeah.
it that
Hmm.
good. We don't
That's a
have
good
that
Okay.
time in the tooltip anyways, right?
Huh? We don't have
Say
that.
again?
We don't have
Cool.
times.
Yeah.
Times in tooltips right now at all, which we should have
Great.
in the tooltips. That'd be good to have.
Okay, so the next one.
We do have a document for the player
For the starting
captain.
fleet stuff, there is a document. We had a.
I have it. I'm gonna link it.
Okay, so the next one in the list is something that is strictly a design time task, only design time, which is as a designer, I want to know how players know and control where their resources are held and ships they come from when they use an ability that has resource costs. I think it's not just ability. I think it's also building installations. I think it's anything where it's a
I
cost.
use ability because that building installation is an ability.
Oh, okay, fair
Everything's
enough. Good call.
abilities. So
Um, we had talked a while back. I forgot who was it with. I think it was you, Anthony, only, and I think Brandon was not there. I'm not sure, but about doing something where we reintroduce the concept of shuttles. And when you want to do something, so ships have a finite number of resources on them in their buckets. And when you want to do something or accomplish something, the ship spends its own resources. But if there's not enough, the shuttles at that point will automatically go and get the resources from other ships and bring them back. But there's a time cost to that. And so, as a way of having like an in between busy work kind of like, simple gameplay, repeatable gameplay. What's the word? I use the word chore, but that has a
it's
negative
just
connotation,
it's an
even though I
activity.
enjoy that.
Yeah, whatever the
Yeah, an
activity is.
activity. A repeatable activity is ferrying, like manually, proactively ferrying resources to places you know that you're going to want to use them, so that they're ready immediately when you want to engage in that activity. And the thing that I like about that is that it it gives you something to do that's optional but optimal, right? So the players who are hardcore will do it all the time because it's optimal and it will feel good for them. And the players who don't give a crap won't do it and it won't be optimal and they probably won't win as much as the other players, but that makes sense, right? Like that is a good thing that players who are optimal will win more. What do
So
you guys think?
I mean, I am up for something like that. Um, I think it's the more roughly simple thing to do, or it's gonna be we don't do any shuttles, and if this isn't the activity, and then we still have to do a thing because resources do live on ships.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is a thing. So whenever you use an ability and you don't have all the resources on the ship, you need some way to tell it where the other resources come from. Um,
I don't even think we need to necessarily tell it where to take the resources from. It could be that the AI picks it if you don't have them right now. And so there's that added thing of when I know what I want from my fleet, when I become really good at this game, I know how to manage the resources and get them going when I have downtime so that it is optimal where I got the right stuff in the right places at all the right times.
yeah,
Yeah, I have to admit that doesn't sound like an appealing problem. That just sounds like a really frustrating and stressful thing to manage. Like I'm missing seconds worth of value is not an interesting like problem to to deal with. And it was a thing that I feel like, well, it might be my bias because I was watching my roommate play through and he was like
Mm-hmm.
really not liking that he was missing like a second here or a second there because of the pause button. He's like, why is this not turn based? Was one of his major
Oh, interesting.
one of his major gripes. Um, Granted, that is the question of
Well, but
like
he
what
can
are the
pause at
things you
any
do in
point.
between. Yeah, but sometimes you miss the pause by like 1 second because you needed to move your cursor over, right? And whenever you miss it
Oh
by a
yeah,
second, it
PS.
just
We
gets
need to make
easier.
space
it already
bar.
does. It's done it
pause.
for like months.
Oh,
It's like one of the first things I ever
what?
put in. Spacebar pauses and
I'm
unpauses the
playing.
game.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
I
Okay, I'm
think that
doing it right
I think I was a part of this discussion, but I think that
now.
what I would rather see for the seconds in between, something that's less cookie clicker but keeps you engaged, would be some like passive like storytelling mechanic of what's going on in your fleet. That's like, oh, there was a riot here on this ship, or there's some kind of political thing happening here. Obviously, that's a lot of writing, but I think it
But
is
what
a
do you do with
better.
it still?
You just
Yeah,
watch it.
I'm struggling with the
No,
same thing.
no.
You want
Yeah,
you
I
need the
would.
I
ability
want
to click
something to
something.
do.
I agree
I'm
with
sit
Anthony
there and I am
there.
bored
Like,
with our game. Because whenever I have
I,
like things ticking down, I'm just like, all right, I'm
Well, I
just
mean, I think that
staring.
begs the question of like, why is this a time-based game and not a turn-based game?
it could be
It could
turn-based.
be.
I don't mind that it's time-based, and I mean, not to be contrarian or anything, and not that I don't. This is just my opinion, but I disagree with you that I think that ferrying stuff between ships for optimal efficiency is something that people who enjoy roguelikes will actually enjoy, at least to a degree, because there's a satisfaction that you get out of excellence of optimization when you play roguelikes that that feels really good, even if the underlying mechanic tends to be tedious. I don't want to use the word tedious though, because I don't feel like this will be tedious. I think this is going to be a mental exercise where you think, I know what I want to do with my fleet, and I'm going to customize it per fleet. But at the same time, this is where I'm going to put these things because I know the AI will do it worse than I will.
And to get back to the other question you asked, why is it real time? Because the influences this game was based on were real time. Like all the influences are a real time game. Like that was just a decision made. It doesn't have to be real time or turn based. It was just a straight up decision at the beginning made of like, hey, real time.
I like the real time aspect of it personally, but I would not mind turn based.
No.
Turn based is where my love is ultimately.
Because
But
it was more based on around like the simulation games, like Cities.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I see the origin.
Rim World, Dwarven Forge, any of those type of Prison Architect, things like that. They're not. It was like that. The simulation aspect of it is not turn based. Although long ago there was a design I had that did have it turn based. Initially, but that was much more based around Master of Orion, and you're explore like you had a big galaxy map, and you were moving from like sector to sector more in like a Master of Orion-esque, like moving a fleet around.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing. I feel like our game is trending more towards the latter because it doesn't have a lot of simulation aspects to it, right? Or at least it doesn't feel
Yeah.
like it does. Yeah, I mean, we say yet, but what system is going like what system down the next two sprints have we identified that is a simulation system?
It's not all those. That's the thing. Like we have jettisoned all of that stuff right now. We've pushed it away, but I am not willing to give up on that design. Just because we pushed it away doesn't mean it wasn't an integral part of the like. It's your real time feed of like the ships should have some simulation of like what their populations are doing. Light of being like, oh, they can catch fire. Things can go wrong on a ship. Like
same thing with factions. Factions, like a new, uh, like the Prophet
Internal
of
faction
Doom
politics.
has
Yeah.
appeared. Yeah, all that stuff. Like elections can happen on a regular basis. Different kinds of stuff can happen. A community. A ship wide. Like each ship could have its own type of government that does its own special things. Like I feel like there's so much potential here for real time simulation that makes it so it feels like an RTS that I meant real time simulation. Sorry, not strategy. I don't mean StarCraft, but but it feels like a real time simulation where you can pause at any point. So essentially, it's turn based on your keyboard inputs. But like maybe Nate's feedback, maybe he would.
Well, it's also my feedback because I feel the exact same way. I mean,
Do you think
like
that having a better user experience through controls and things would alleviate some of those concerns? Because I know,
not
for
really.
example, when I play Europa Universalis, I have every single event set to pause the game. A lot of people play the game where they're just like, I kind of just want to play and not worry about it. Whereas when I play, I want to be super optimal. So every single event that happens, even minor trivial things, it pauses the game. Most of the time, I just press enter and unpause. But I like it because it means I get
the handshake.
And actually, that was one of the things that has come. I'm like, there should be an option in there to say like when an ability finishes, when something finishes, pause the game. Like
Yeah.
and it's similar to whenever you're playing like real time computer RPGs, so Dragon Ages or anything like that. I know there's an option in
Yes,
there.
yes.
Not the newer ones, but there is an option in like Baldur's Gate and like the Pillars of Eternity games that it's like pause when an ability like someone does an ability, pause the game, so you can then. I don't play like that. Because it was
Right.
holy crap, does it get tedious?
That's probably enough of a solve for me to agree to that.
So that it's just like you can just say like, hey,
Yeah,
I just want to say when an
I agree
ability
with you,
finishes
Brandon.
ticking down, something happens, pause the game so I can then check what's going on.
Yeah, because then
And
it
what we
does
can-
allow me to optimize completely.
Exactly. We can put in the options menu just like what they do in Europa or any of the other Paradox games. They have literally like a hundreds event long list of things that can happen. I don't want to do hundreds, but I just want to do like, maybe like a dozen or so things where it says pause the game after, and then it has checkboxes for each thing that I would personally like to pause the game after. When we will optimize for the initial experience of being like, it's not going to be annoying, but it will also give you a pause for critical things for the newer player. But advanced players can go in and customize it as they choose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
It's like
that'd be a
major
good thing.
cooldowns. Yeah,
Yeah.
like we just define the major cooldowns
Yep.
versus minor pop-ups.
Yeah.
The minor.
Because I know randomly when you get events now, they pause the game.
Yeah.
That will pause the game. Is there any jumping in pauses the game now every time?
Yep.
That's good. Yeah, it's just abilities don't. Like when abilities execute, you don't get a pause. The thing is, would you pause when ability comes off cooldown?
I mean, that's an
No.
option. I don't see any reason why we don't give them the option.
Oh,
If
that's
a player
true. Just
wants
give
it,
them
they
the
can
option. If
have
someone
it.
really wants that. But we also don't really
We're not
show
gonna do
you.
it
We
by
don't give
default.
you good
No, we're not
feedback
gonna
when
do it
something
by
comes
default.
off of cooldown, which we totally need to do.
Yeah. Actually, that was another comment that Nate made that was pretty obvious to the rest of us, I think, too, was that when you're flicking through the idle ships, he's just like, there has to be a better way to just show to let us
Yeah.
go to like each ship and actually use the abilities instead of me having to click through
Yeah.
these 4 times.
Yep.
I'm like, yeah, I mean, we'll get there.
That is true, and we should do
This
that.
is early access.
Not so that, yeah, this is really early.
Okay,
So-
so as far as this card is concerned, we were going to talk about
Beyond
whether or not
shuttles,
we like that idea.
Shuttles or not, we do need a way to be able to say like, hey, I want to use an ability. My fleet has the resources. The ship doesn't have the resources. How do what? So you're saying just let AI determine what ships those come from?
Correct. The AI is just going to say, just pull it from anywhere. Like, pick the next ship. It could be random. It could be the ship with the most. It could be the closest ship. Any
I think
simple
that's
thing.
how it's supposed
the
to
shuttles
work
could
right
do.
now, but the
Okay.
code is just screwed. Like,
Oh no.
I
Okay.
looked through it and it's just like it tries to pull from like a default ship, which is usually the ship that you are, but if it's not there, it's like, oh, let me get a random ship and get resources from it, but the way it loops through things, it adds resources sometimes, and
Yeah.
like really it goes all to hell. But
I think
the-
optimally, or not optimally, but design-wise, we probably want to make it just optimized for time over everything. So it probably just needs to be. If we do shuttles,
it'd probably be like
then it needs to
5
be
seconds or something added on, or something.
yeah, like
something
the closest
minor.
ship.
The thing is that I would do is then to do then would be the thing for managing it yourself. I think the ship pop-up actually needs to show what's on a ship, like what resources are on a ship. And
Good
then you
call.
could just click a resource on that pop-up. Maybe
It's
it
like
opens
send
a
a ship or
slider or
something.
something where you can select how much resources you want to send, and then you just select the ship you want to send it to, and then it just goes, and you see a little shuttle.
That's a cool
launch
idea.
from one to the other. Maybe, like that's all I can think of.
Yeah, I
is
think that's a great idea.
this also comes up another thing where I'm like, we don't do this. I want tooltips for ships. I want to just hover over a ship and not have to click on it to see its
Ooh.
giant pop-up. I just want to hover over it to see what resources it has and what it's doing, and like it's not controlling anything.
Let's add that.
I just want
to
information
the-
on the ship without having to click on the goddamn ship.
Yeah, let's add that to the backlog.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
I love
one
that.
is a good idea. I was watching Nate hover the ships, like as if looking for
He
something.
wants that.
And he
I
wants it.
want it too. I've noticed
You,
that I
you
want
want it somewhere inside of you, yeah.
There's also a thing of like, do I also want when a ship is doing? Well, no, we have the little ability things at the bottom, which is fine.
It would be nice if it had the portrait of the ship captain and like
Yeah.
the name of the ship or something. You know, some kind of identifier as to who is tied to that cooldown
Yeah.
or that timer, right? And I think that'll start being a really nice connecting point.
Or you can click the action going on, and it will take you to the ship that's doing it.
Yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just some
Yep.
way to like get that connection, because I get disconnected sometimes. Like, which ship is doing that thing?
Yeah.
Yep. Me too.
Yeah, like we really need to
Um,
like start tying those mental connections together
Yeah.
between the cooldown to like who owns it, so that it, yeah.
So this let me ask a question then for you guys, because I know what I think, but I would love to hear what you guys think about this. So there's the constant tug right now in this early access between polishing. I don't mean like super polishing, right? Like I'm not talking, final layer of any kind whatsoever, but polishing to the point of convenience, right? Not just excellence, but convenience. Because almost everything we have in the game right now is inconvenient, right? Do you guys agree with that statement?
Yeah, there's a lot of inconvenient things.
Right. So polishing to the point of convenience versus implementing additional content and systems that are also inconvenient. And I know the thing that I prefer right now in this stage, but I kind of want to gauge what you guys
I want
think.
the final loop in.
I think
like
we need
I
the
want
loop.
the long range scanning in. Once we have that piece in, I'll feel a lot more comfortable starting to look at things from adding some content and convenience.
Yeah.
So okay, cool. So you're saying you prefer
Finish the core
finishing
loop.
the inconvenient systems before polishing to convenience.
Yes.
Yes.
Because I want
Both
I
of you
want
said, "Yay!"
I want the loop basically. Like
Yeah,
I don't.
we need the
Yep,
loop.
we're all aligned.
We just need the loop.
And
like
that's the
we
thing.
need
I'm
a-
not looking for the loop to be. I'm looking for MVP of the loop. I'm not looking for anything
Yeah.
more than that. And then we can then start working on the convenience. And that's why, like, even talking about like where the resources are, that system is broken and wrong. But it's not higher priority to me than getting the loop done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Just need the
Perfect.
LRS, and we need like something at the beginning that makes someone say, "Oh, I
Yep.
would like to try that again,"
Yeah.
which is
Yep.
in my mind the draft.
I
And then
think-
once we're there, we're like, "Okay, we have the loop down. Now we can start prioritizing
Yeah,
the rest."
I totally agree. And that's what needs to happen right now.
Perfect. Great. Okay.
The only other thing, like, where you're putting it in front of people now, so sometimes that might slightly change if something pretty drastic comes up that everyone's like, I don't understand or I don't get this, which makes
Or if it's game
which it
breaking,
makes it hard for us to
in a
then
way.
be like, oh, we don't want to introduce new players to the game right now. If there's any point in time where we question like we should not introduce new players to the game because we know that they're going to get hung up on this and we can't get, they're going to be bounce off or turned off and it's going to mess with feedback, so all we're hearing is that, it's probably something we want to fix.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with that too. But we also don't have our game, so let's get the core game.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they can get hung up on crashing right now,
And they are,
So
which is
let's-
great. And I
Yeah.
love that they're putting those logs in, and it's totally through the stupid event pool.
Okay, let's check if there's anything else in the
So
design
one of the
thing
easy
to talk
things.
about.
So one of the things that we could, when you're talking about convenience and systems, the pausing after an ability is done is one line of code that I can just add.
I would feel more comfortable making that an option in the menu. So even though it's just one line of code, let's consider that it's that plus an option
option.
in the menu. Yeah, which probably isn't that hard either. Like that could be something. For example, you were talking about doing stuff if you get frustrated with the saving
It's
code.
true.
So if you get frustrated with that, just like do that. That's an easy.
Just add a stupid little option.
Yeah,
For...
add the option in the menu, default it to off, and people can just toggle
it's
it
true.
on if they want. So that the game behaves the same way it did before, but people can toggle it on. Is it easy to? Does the option menu save between games currently?
Yes, it does.
Sweet. Then there's
It
nothing
saves.
to worry
It
about.
saves user info. Yeah.
That's awesome. I don't see anything else in the list. Did I miss something? If you guys can double check me, I don't
Double-check
see
me.
anything else in the design list.